Could you tell me a little bit about the Healthy Families Massachusetts program?
The Healthy Families Massachusetts was initially implemented in 1997, and has been operating since that time. It's a program that serves young mothers, first-time mothers, and their children. To be eligible, you have to be under the age of 21, and it provides services to those families, those young families, for the period from pregnancy through the child's third birthday. It is a universally available, that is to say, universally offered program. So across the state, in theory, anybody who fits the eligibility criteria should be able to be enrolled. However, the issue is also how much funding there is and how many spaces are available.
Is this modeled after a national program, or are these services available nationwide?
There are many models, well established by now, models of home visiting. Healthy Families Massachusetts is modeled after the Healthy Families America program, which operates in, I believe, at least 40 states. This is, to my knowledge, the only Healthy Families adaptation that is for young families alone. So the other Healthy Families programs surely have many young moms involved, but this one is directed only to young moms.
What were you and your colleagues looking for?
We have been in the process of evaluating healthy families since, I believe it is 1998. The first evaluation, which we call MHFE1, Massachusetts Healthy Families Evaluation, the first cohort, began soon after the program began. And we were really interested in understanding a lot about the implementation of that program. How do the local programs get up and going? What kinds of services do they provide? We understand what the state program wanted home visitors to do, but indeed, what were they actually doing? Who received the services? How long did they receive the services? And then, so that's the implementation side of things. And then we were also interested in knowing whether families involved in Healthy Families made progress over this period of time. That initial evaluation pointed us in many directions toward both a more sophisticated, by scientific standards, design, but also we understood a lot more about how the program was being offered and could narrow in and kind of sharpen the questions that we asked. The second run of our evaluation, MHFE2, then second cohort, was a randomized controlled trial where we recruited families who were eligible for this program, and then through a random assignment process, assigned families either to Healthy Families or to a control or comparison group. The comparison group received a variety of other kinds of services, information or referral, and the Healthy Families group received the Healthy Families evaluation. We tracked them over a period of years, 2 to 3 years. We then reported our findings at the end of that first period. We later came back and were funded to implement a follow-up study. So we have collected 4th, 5th, and 6th wave data, and now the last wave of data had mothers into their 20s, most of them, and children close to 8 years old.
Could you tell me some of those findings, and what did the evaluation determine?
Well, it is for those of us who have been in the field for a long time in the Healthy Families reading Healthy Families evaluation research, we wanted to be fair and thorough. We don't put our money down on this kind of finding or that kind of finding, but we hoped that there were going to be findings to report, or at least we tried to surface those findings as well as possible. But these are teenagers, and the program runs for a period of years, and in theory, to get the effect, you should stay involved, but teenagers' families' lives are busy, and we didn't know what we were going to find. And in fact, from the first round of evaluations, we did find that being involved in the Healthy Families evaluation decreased parental stress, or that parental stress was less among the Healthy Families group, the program group, than the other group, than the control group. We also found that a greater percentage of moms went on to college and completed some college. And then we found a variety of findings in what are called the maternal well-being and a maternal well-being goal. Fewer risky behaviors, less substance abuse, and less domestic violence. Okay. So then in our follow-up study, we found there were some findings that were similar, some findings that were different. We did find that mothers also, that the children, we found some findings for the children, and we also continue to have findings for mothers in terms of maternal well-being, these substance abuse, these risky behaviors that we talked about. Particularly interesting in the second round were that we found findings in subpopulations that we think are really going to be worth studying for further in the future. That is to say, mothers who had high family support and were not depressed tended to do much better with healthy families, so they could make use of it, metabolize it, than mothers in the control group for certain goals, for certain outcomes. And for other outcomes, mothers who were depressed, came in depressed, and had other kinds of challenges tended to do better than mothers in the control group. So you found a variety of positive outcomes of the program, not just one set for one type of mom.
What do these findings suggest then?
I think the findings tell us a lot both about the population we're interested in and also about the possibilities of effect from interventions. On the first point, conventional wisdom has it that teen moms are, come from extremely risky circumstances. They have many challenges, and basically there isn't a lot of expectation for these mothers, and we assume that the children are going to have a hard time growing up as well. So one thing we learned from these is that in fact these moms are mostly, they are young, but they are mostly like other teenagers or other young moms. They have needs for support, they have aspirations for themselves, they have aspirations for their children, and yes, they have challenges, but they are a heterogeneous group, not a homogeneous group. And policymakers and program developers need to think much more creatively about how to serve, I think, the range of these moms. So that's the first thing about the population. They have all kinds of moms and children in that group, and they can succeed on what could be a relatively spare intervention. Not all these moms stay in for 3 years. In fact, most of them do not. So you imagine that just some help at critical moments really makes a difference for moms as they move along. That's really important. On the other hand, yes, there were findings, but on the other hand, it's really important not to think that we can do this supporting families business once, it's once and out, over and out, because parents need support across their period of parenting. Any of us know that from having been parents, and teen moms do too, and sometimes they don't have that in their own homes. And we need to think about this not as an immunization once we've done it, or maybe as immunizations. They need boosters, and they need them along the way, because kids at different ages present different challenges, and parenting at different ages present different challenges. So I think it's wonderful that and it was in a way surprising, which is no testament to, I mean, it is no judgment of the program, but I was impressed that there were as many findings as there were. On the other hand, we have to sustain them, and I think we need additional supports along the way.
A message to policy makers from this research.
If you look over American social policy over the last couple hundred years, what you see is our approach is to do the least we possibly can at the latest possible point. We don't want to provide people something. Don't have many universal services for kids, and we don't want to provide services to people who don't really need them. Okay? So it's been very hard to get prevention going in this country in any areas that have to do with parenting and child development. I think what this says to us is if you get in before there are problems, you really can make a difference. It's worth it. It costs, there was one of the members of the Select Committee on Children, Youth, and Families in the early 1980s, George Miller, who was congressman from California, said, you pay me now or pay me later, but you're going to pay me. And in truth, if you invest early, chances are good that maybe you won't have to invest to the same degree later, but you still have to invest along the way. It's silly not to think that way.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you would want people to know?
I think for us, we understand we are coming more and we are getting clearer about the heterogeneity, the diversity within this population. And it's going to be the case that some moms with some configuration of characteristics would be best helped by a certain set of services that home visiting has, and other moms with a different set of experiences and different contexts have other experiences. So I think going forward, research will look at that heterogeneity more fully. The only other thing I would say, because programs have to prove their effectiveness, and the expectation is always that the program is going to be so powerful that it can move through all of the other challenges that families face. But if you don't have housing, and if your kids are enrolled in not very good schools and your schools aren't very good, and you don't have excellent health care, and you don't have mental health services, it is counterintuitive to imagine that everyone's going to do well, these families or children. So I think policymakers have to think about, we had a major finding in homelessness, and we know how tentative some of these housing arrangements are. So we have to really think about this as a suite of supports, not as supporting parenting, because gosh, God forbid we should support some other kinds of aspects of their lives.
What is your specific area of science or expertise?
I'm particularly interested in child and family policy particularly for young families, and I work in the general field of program evaluation. So I'm interested in understanding how programs and policies are implemented as well as the results that they achieve.
For background, your undergraduate, your master's, and your advanced degrees were gotten where?
My undergraduate degree is from Brandeis University in sociology, and then I have a master's and a doctorate from Harvard Graduate School of Education. My area is social policy analysis.